In just 2 weeks, a side project by David Karp and Marco Arment drew 75,000 users and ignited a creative wildfire. This was Tumblr, once the beating heart of internet subculture, poised to conquer the world. But 6 years and $1 billion acquisition later, its value evaporated by 97%, leaving a digital ruin where an empire once stood. How did a haven for millions unravel into tech's most infamous collapse? The answer starts where few expect, with a radical idea, a frustrated founder, and a question Silicon Valley never saw coming. David Karp spent a year waiting for someone else to build the blogging tool he wanted. Existing platforms felt rigid, slow, and impersonal. None seemed to understand the wild, fast-moving energy of the internet's creative underground. In 2006, out of this frustration, Karp and Marco Arment started coding their own solution in a small New York apartment. Their idea was simple but bold, a space for short-form stream of consciousness posts where users could share photos, GIFs, quotes, and links with a single click. No barriers, no pressure to perform, just a blank canvas and a dashboard that moved as quickly as its users' ideas. When Tumblr launched in February 2007, the response was immediate. 75,000 people joined in the first 2 weeks, drawn by the promise of a platform that felt alive and unfiltered. The dashboard's live feed let users see new posts roll in, second by second. Customizable HTML themes gave anyone the power to shape their digital identity. Tagging made it easy for strangers to find each other and form communities around the smallest shared obsession. For young creators, artists, and outsiders, Tumblr didn't just lower the barrier to entry, it made the barrier vanish. Investors noticed the groundswell. By October 2007, Tumblr had secured $750,000 in seed funding from Spark Capital and Union Square Ventures. The company's pitch wasn't about profits or scale, it was about unlocking the internet's raw potential for creative self-expression. Karp, still in his early 20s, refused to clutter the site with ads or chase growth at any cost. Instead, he focused on building a space that felt personal, almost secret, even as user numbers kept climbing. The mood on Tumblr was electric, but intimate, a digital city where everyone was a creator and every post could spark a movement. In those early days, it wasn't about going viral or chasing followers. It was about finding your people, experimenting in public, and watching ideas mutate and spread in real time. For a generation raised on social networks that demanded real names and polished profiles, Tumblr offered something radical: anonymity, freedom, and the thrill of discovery. The experiment worked. Within months, Tumblr had become a magnet for the internet's misfits, dreamers, and visionaries, setting the stage for a cultural explosion no one could have predicted. Tumblr's earliest users found themselves in a playground built for experimentation. The dashboard, a constantly updating stream of posts, broke from the static world of traditional blogs. Here, content flowed in real time: photos, GIFs, quotes, and text tumbling past in a living feed. With a single click, users could reblog anything that caught their eye, setting off viral chains that could ripple across the entire site in hours. It wasn't just about broadcasting, it was about remixing, riffing, and responding. Every reblog added a new layer, a new voice, a new joke or twist. Theme editing turned every blog into a personal canvas. Anyone with a bit of curiosity could tweak their HTML, changing colors, fonts, layouts, or adding music and animated backgrounds. For teenagers and artists, this was a revelation. You didn't need to know how to code from scratch to make something beautiful or weird. Some users became known for their themes alone, distributing templates and tutorials that others would adopt and adapt. The result was a mosaic of self-expression, with no two blogs looking exactly alike. Tagging made it easy to stumble into unexpected corners of the internet. A single tag could connect a handful of strangers obsessed with the same band, TV show, or inside joke. Communities formed around the smallest shared interest: fan fiction writers, digital artists, social justice advocates, and meme makers all found their own niches. Tumblr's design did more than encourage these connections, it made them inevitable. The platform's open structure let subcultures flourish in public, without the pressure of real names or rigid friend lists. Anonymity was not just tolerated, but celebrated. Unlike other platforms that pushed for followers and likes, Tumblr's mechanics rewarded curiosity and creativity. The queue feature let users schedule posts, keeping their blogs lively even when they were offline. Early support for GIFs and multimedia posts gave artists and animators a home long before other social networks embraced these formats. The site's refusal to force a single identity or style meant that creators could reinvent themselves as often as they liked, testing boundaries and building new personas with each post. What set Tumblr apart wasn't just the technology, it was the feeling that anything was possible. The tools were simple, but the results were wild and unpredictable. For a generation hungry for connection and self-definition, Tumblr became the internet's most flexible canvas and its most welcoming stage. By 2011, Tumblr had become a cultural engine running on inside jokes, fan art, and a language all its own. More than 70% of users were under 35, a wave of digital natives who turned the platform into a laboratory for internet aesthetics. What began as a blank canvas quickly evolved into a living archive of subcultures. Dark academia, pastel goth, cottagecore, and vaporwave each found roots in the endless scroll. Teenagers and 20-somethings used theme customization, GIF sets, and mood boards to define and share entire visual worlds. Fandoms flourished in this environment. The dashboard became a gathering place for fans of Supernatural, Doctor Who, K-pop, and anime who organized themselves with hashtags and inside references. Fan fiction writers and digital artists built sprawling universes, sometimes with thousands of contributors, riffing on a single prompt. Moderators, often just passionate fans, kept tags organized, settled disputes, and helped newcomers find their place. The result was a sense of ownership and belonging that felt rare on the wider internet. Tumblr's anonymity let users explore identity and community without fear of judgment. LGBTQ+ youth in particular found a haven for self-expression and support, far from the glare of real-name social networks. Activist communities and social justice movements thrived alongside meme makers and shitposters, each group carving out its own corner. The platform's influence stretched beyond its borders. Aesthetics born on Tumblr started to appear in mainstream fashion, music videos, and even advertising campaigns. Brands took notice, eager to tap into the energy and creativity pulsing through the site. But inside Tumblr, the real currency was attention, not money. Reblogs, notes, and viral posts mattered more than followers or sponsorships. For a brief moment, it felt like the internet belonged to its users, not to algorithms or corporations. In that charged atmosphere, creativity wasn't just encouraged, it was contagious. In the summer of 2012, something unfamiliar appeared on Tumblr's dashboard, a paid advertisement from Adidas woven into the endless stream of posts. For the first time, a major brand had entered the scene not as a silent observer, but as an active participant, launching an official soccer blog and buying ad space directly on the platform. The campaign arrived just weeks after Tumblr announced it would begin experimenting with paid advertising, a decision that sent ripples through the site's creative core. By then, Tumblr was no longer just a niche playground. On a single day in May 2011, users generated 250 million page views, and the number of blogs had soared past 42 million. Every corner of the internet's youth culture seemed to live here. Adidas saw an audience that traditional channels could not reach, a community that set trends before they hit the mainstream. Behind the scenes, marketing executives from other brands watched closely, trying to decode the secret language of GIF sets and fandom memes. The Adidas deal was more than a business transaction, it was a test. Could Tumblr's wild self-organizing energy be harnessed for profit without breaking the spell that made it special? For many users, the arrival of corporate advertising felt like a warning shot. The dashboard, once a refuge from commercial noise, now carried the faint echo of the outside world. Some shrugged it off, reblogging the Adidas post with jokes or edits. Others worried about what might follow. The partnership hinted at a new reality. Tumblr's cultural capital was drawing the attention of companies eager to buy a piece of its influence. The question was whether the platform's creative freedom could survive the demands of revenue and scale. As brands circled and investors looked for returns, the balance between community and commerce was about to be tested. On May 20th, 2013, Yahoo announced it would buy Tumblr for $1.1 billion in cash. The headline alone sent shockwaves through the internet. For Yahoo, the deal was a bold attempt to capture the attention of a generation it had long struggled to reach. Tumblr's founder, David Karp, would remain in charge, but the platform's fiercely loyal community saw the move as a threat to everything they had built. Within hours, a petition protesting the acquisition began circulating across blogs and dashboards. Nearly 170,000 users added their names, voicing fears that Tumblr's creative chaos would be traded for corporate control. The sheer size of the deal stood in stark contrast to Tumblr's modest revenue. In the previous year, the platform had brought in just $13 million, barely a fraction of what Yahoo was now willing to pay. The acquisition was not just a business transaction, it was a public wager that Tumblr's cultural cachet could be transformed into profit. But for the millions who called Tumblr home, the announcement felt like an eviction notice. The petition's numbers climbed by the hour, each signature a small act of resistance against the looming influence of Yahoo's boardrooms and brand managers. Tension rippled through the site. Users posted memes, jokes, and open letters, all threaded with anxiety about what might happen next. Would the dashboard fill with ads? Would the freedom to post art, fanfiction, or political commentary survive under new ownership? The figure of $1.1 billion became a symbol of how much Tumblr was worth to outsiders and how little control its own users had over its future. The backlash was immediate and loud, setting up a confrontation between the platform's original spirit and the realities of corporate ambition. While Tumblr's user base swelled and its creative communities flourished, the platform's technical foundation quietly began to buckle. Product leaders clung to the idea that a chronological feed, where posts appeared in the order they were published, was the purest way to let users control their experience. For years, this choice set Tumblr apart from competitors that filtered and ranked content with opaque algorithms. But as Facebook, Instagram, and later Snapchat shifted to algorithmic feeds, users on those platforms found themselves discovering new creators and trends almost effortlessly. Tumblr's dashboard, once a living pulse of the internet, started to feel static by comparison. Behind the scenes, the engineering team faced mounting technical debt. Years of rapid growth had left the codebase tangled and brittle. New features took longer to build, and bugs lingered unresolved. As rivals rolled out mobile-first designs and real-time notifications, Tumblr's updates lagged behind. The refusal to adopt algorithmic curation was more than just a philosophical stance, it became a practical disadvantage. Users needed to follow hundreds of blogs to see a steady stream of content, while Instagram's algorithm surfaced fresh posts tailored to every individual's taste. No effort required. The backlog of unresolved issues grew. Infrastructure aged and security updates slipped. Even simple product improvements stalled as teams wrestled with legacy systems. For creators and fans used to the site's early agility, frustration set in. The world outside Tumblr was moving faster. The platform that once felt like the future now struggled to keep up with the present. As technical debt piled up and product momentum slowed, the moat that once protected Tumblr's unique culture began to erode, leaving it exposed to forces it had long ignored. In November 2018, the Tumblr app vanished from Apple's App Store. The reason was blunt and non-negotiable. Apple had found child sexual abuse material on the platform. For Tumblr's leadership, the message was clear: fix this problem or lose access to millions of iPhone users. Behind closed doors, executives weighed legal risks and the threat of permanent removal from one of the world's most important mobile marketplaces. The clock was ticking. On December 3rd, Tumblr announced a sweeping new policy. All adult content would be banned from the site, effective December 17th. The language was absolute. Photos, videos, and GIFs depicting real-life genitals or sex acts would be wiped out. Exceptions for art, education, and protest nudity were written in, but the boundaries were vague, and enforcement would be handled by automated filters. The decision was not about community standards or gradual change. It was a direct response to pressure from Apple, a gatekeeper with the power to cut off Tumblr's future on mobile devices. Internally, the mood was tense. Leaders knew the ban would hit the heart of Tumblr's creator base, but the alternative was unthinkable: disappear from the App Store and risk irrelevance overnight. The countdown to December 17th had begun. 16.4% of Tumblr accounts had been dedicated to adult content before the ban. When the filter swept through, entire communities vanished almost overnight. The dashboard, once a riot of fan art, erotica, and inside jokes, grew quiet. Artists, queer creators, and sex workers who had built their followings here packed up and moved to Twitter, Reddit, or platforms built for fanfiction and art. Fandoms that once thrived on endless reblogs and shared headcanons scattered, their archives locked or deleted by automated systems that couldn't tell the difference between a Renaissance painting and explicit material. The traffic numbers told the story. Unique visitors plummeted as the site's core creators left, taking their audiences with them. Without the network of artists, writers, and fans feeding off each other's energy, Tumblr's appeal unraveled. What had once been a living, breathing city of creativity turned into a shell, haunted by the echoes of communities that had moved on. The collapse wasn't just visible in numbers, it was felt in every empty tag and abandoned dashboard. Platforms built on community can vanish almost overnight, but the digital footprints left behind change real lives. As tech giants seek growth, the clash between profit and culture only intensifies. Today, what happened to Tumblr haunts every new online space. The next platform's fate may hinge not on code, but on whether it remembers who it's really for. Share your thoughts below.